Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening and welcome into the Breakdown. Well, things look a little bit different today because we've been kicked out of the main studio. We're in Studio 2. The Commonwealth Games are on, of course, and our athletes are going for gold at the moment. Unfortunately, for our Seven Sisters, they're not playing in the gold medal match. Mils Muliaina, Jeff Wilson joining us. Have you been getting up to watch the action?
I have a little bit. Every now and then, I'm obviously gutted with what's happened with the Sevens, but everything else that's sort of gone on, you know, the initial rush of gold medals and the other medals as well, it's been pretty pleasing. But obviously the news and seeing the girls, losing to Australia, pretty hard stuff to watch.
Yeah, tough to watch, but bottom line as well, it's great to see all the other athletes getting an opportunity on the international stage to go in things that they haven't been able to do for the last couple of years. It's been fantastic, but bit of disappointment, obviously, for the team not making to that point where they thought they were going to get to. I'll be interested to see how we react to that, because we've reacted to so much.
There's been so much drama, hasn't there? Literally more drama than a soap opera, it seems, over the last week. Every day you're waiting for the next instalment. What's going to happen? Who's going to speak today? Well, there is no doubt about it. The All Blacks, they are under pressure at the moment.
James Lowe! There's too much momentum behind him and the Irish strike early. Famous victory again. Brilliant Ireland.
And were we found out for the first time this season? No one has done this to us. And should we take a leaf out of their book? Because we got no go forward. We got no momentum in our attack. We've been dominated for 40 minutes. We've had limited opportunity. It's been an impressive performance from France. Once again, we've made errors, we've made mistakes. Stan, it's been a difficult tour. But to lose back-to-back test matches at the end of this tour against Ireland and France, it has to be concerning.
And a famous Irish victory, their first against the All Blacks in New Zealand.
So it'll be a big one next week. They're going to have to really step up.
And that is that. Ireland win the series.
You know, knocking on the balls that we wouldn't normally. And I think that just shows that maybe we just haven't got that combination that we needed. It just, to me was hard to see, but it just was out for us tonight.
It was a big stage and we fell short.
The coaches are going to have to look in the mirror, and that's what All Blacks do. There are no excuses around us. We are not good enough at the moment. We need to cop that, but we also need a strategic plan moving forward.
Well, the All Blacks have lost 4 out of the last 5 tests, and you heard Sir John Kirwan say just not good enough at the moment. Well, in the next couple of weeks, the Rugby Championship starts on Sunday, of course. Do you get a bigger challenge in rugby than going to South Africa, playing back-to-back tests at altitude, Jeff?
Look, the funny thing about this, and I've listened to some interviews coming out of the team, they're talking about getting better and improving. My concern is that's not what people are interested in right now. They want to see them win. The pressure is on to win. The pressure is on for their captain, for their coach, for their team, for their group, for the organisation to go out and be successful. And that's an unfortunate position to be in, but that's the reality when you play for the All Blacks. And there's 2 test matches right now where normally you can look to the future. At this time of the preparation for Rugby World Cup, we're focusing on what's going to happen next, who's building towards that nicely. The challenge now is which group of players does this coaching staff, with a new coach coming in, put together, assemble to play at altitude 2 weeks in a row when everything is on the line? Not just, and even the Rugby Championship, which we are the holders right now, we'll need to win at least one of those test matches to come out on top. So significantly for me, all of these things you talk about being a good thing, I think this is one of the hardest challenges the All Blacks have had to have in a long, long time.
How do you think the All Blacks stack up to the Springboks? If you look at the squads as a whole, if you look at the X Factor, if you look at the leadership group, if you look at set piece and the forwards, where will the challenges come?
Oh, I don't talk about set piece because that there makes me nervous. I mean, you only have to look back at what the Springboks did in that first test and how they came back. Well, what do they use? Their driving mauls, their line-outs. If I look at our players, and I mentioned it last week, I've got every confidence in the X Factor players we've got. There's no doubt in my mind we have got the players to be, world champions. It's how they're going to go about playing. What do they change now? What have they gone away and changed in this last couple of weeks to really, simplify their game plan and get on that same page? Because we've seen that against the Irish. They looked all over the place. They looked a little bit confused. Has now Ian Foster, in these last couple of weeks said, okay, this is how we're going to play, and got the backing from the... There's no doubt he's got backing now as the coach, but has he got the backing of the game plan and the style they want to play in South Africa, because this is a massive, massive challenge. You're not sort of warming into things. They've got to get that result, because that result and that first one, if they don't win that first one, for me, really, that's going to be a very long tour. That second one's going to be a hard one to pick up.
What is our best team then to beat the Springboks? What sort of changes will we see? These fresh faces that were brought in, the Shannon Frizzels, the Fletcher Newells, will we see these guys play?
I think the first one, I think Frizzell probably brings in something, whether it's off the bench or not. You know, who does he go there in terms of a line-out option? Because the line-out's going to be the killer. That's going to be a place they have to really, instead of trying to absorb it, they have to really try and attack their set piece. And how do they do that? Well, perhaps sending someone like a Frizzell, he's brought on a little bit of physicality as well during the Super Rugby and what he's sort of done to try and match up with these guys, or not actually, impose himself into the game like that. The biggest for me would be the backline. What does the backline shape up to be like? Because if you look at the Springboks, there is a lot of caps on that other side, plenty of experience and plenty of spark too.
So Mills, the interesting thing about this is the fact that the moment they let John Plumtree out of the environment, let him go, that was a selector that's gone. My understanding is that Ian Foster, with advice and support from Joe Schmidt, are the two that are actually picking this side to play against South Africa. It was always going to be difficult to bring Jason Ryan into this environment and go, look, and can you pick the team as well? That'll be handy, He's getting to know. Do it all. He's getting to know the players. Yeah. He would have been given his brief. I think this is going to be Ian Foster's team, the one that's going to perform and get him and help him get his survival, how things go going forward. And he's got to decide which are the guys for me now. I know it's a hard one, but he look at this and go, the guys that he's going to trust in the next 15 months, if he's there as the All Black coach to deliver at a Rugby World Cup. The blindside flanker thing for me is fascinating. Yeah. Scott Barrett was the first choice. Yes. Then he picked up an injury, so he didn't play the third test. Akira Ioane showed some signs in the third test against Ireland, but Shannon Frizzell is the line-out option, carries the ball hard. That makeup of our forward back, and particularly at lock, because then you'll have to trust Tupavai with Sam Whitelock against the Springboks. Is that the future? Do you go down that path? What impact does Ardie Savea have? Do you then have Dalton Populeti coming off the bench? All of those things. And I haven't even got to the back line. I mean, this is the thing. And if you're going to go down as the head coach of this All Black team, I like the fact it's his side. I'm going to pick the 23 guys to determine my future.
And he has to, really. You talk about, look what he has to put up with. Do I pick for the future, or am I picking for survival? And I think he's got to pick for survival. So what does that look like? Do you look at the likes of Frizzell and Cohen and go, wow, man?
I disagree. You know what he has to do? He has to be courageous and go, how am I going to beat the Springboks? With speed and skill and mobility. Yep. That means that I'm running a risk up front. The fact that they may have put us under pressure at scrum time. Yeah. They might put us under pressure with a line-out drive, but what we are going to do is we're going to score points. We're going to put attacking weapons on the field. Will Jordan at fullback. I want to see that. What happens at first five? Does he go, you know what? I still think he's going to go with Beauden Barrett, but I think the brief for the guys might be slightly different. Yeah. I put Rico Ioane to the wing. Trouble is, what do you do at centre? Jack Goodhue, no good. He's injured. He's carrying injuries at the moment.
Roger Tuivasa-Sheck.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I'm a fan as much as I am an analyst of the game now. I'm looking and going, you know what? I can't see what I saw. I can't see what I saw against Ireland.
So just to confirm, you're putting Shannon Frizzell into the starting side. Maybe on the bench, you're putting Rico back out to the wing and starting Will Jordan, and you're actually going to be on the ground for us in South Africa. We've got a team there next Sunday.
Can't wait. I can't wait for it. I mean, it's been 4 years, I think, since we've been to South Africa. Bill, let's go. And we know the two test matches last year in Australia were remarkable. You were there. I mean, unbelievable test matches. That's what we should expect.
Well, there has been so much talk all week about the back room, not so much about these tests and the players. It all came to a head when Sir Steve Hansen went on the radio on Today FM and spoke to Tova O'Brien.
There's been a lot of reviews done recently, Glenn Moore and Ian Foster on their coaching abilities. And, when was New Zealand Rugby did a self-review of itself? Like, we still don't know what happened with Glenn. We've got Glenn coming out saying that there's a whole lot of lies spoken. They've come out and aired all their dirty washing in the front part of the property rather out the back. So, the relationship between the board and the exec with the players at the moment is probably the worst it's ever been. Why the New Zealand Rugby Union let Steve Chu go, or forced Steve Chu to go at the same time as I finished in 19, so they had two relatively inexperienced people running the ship. I can't fathom. And again, that's a board decision. Mark Robinson's going to be a good CEO. However, like everyone into Sam Cane about his captaincy, I remember in 2007, Richie McCaw was the worst captain we've ever had, according to the media and the public.
That's right.
Well, he went on to become the greatest captain we've had, and he's the only rugby player to ever lift the World Cup up twice.
There was seriously some strong comments that just came from the former coach of the All Blacks, Steve Hansen. A lot of things that we can tuck into there. First and foremost, a self-review of New Zealand rugby. Does that need to happen? He's saying the relationship between the board and the players is the worst it's ever been. Your thoughts?
Well, there's no doubt, they've had a few issues, and it was sort of come about when the Silver Lake deal thing happened. You know, everyone else sort of got in. They weren't aligned together, similar to what we're talking about on the field. But it's interesting. You know, I'd like to know whether they had reviews over the years when Steve and that were around as well. Did the board have reviews then? Because it just kind of seems like now, with everything that's going on, when you're winning, everything's rosy. You know, you don't talk about all these reviews and stuff, but when you lose, you start sort of picking at other little wee things. You know, why didn't Steve Chu stay on? Why did they let him go? Well, it'll be interesting to hear. I thought he actually left, but the actual fact, but from what it sounds like, they possibly wanted him to stay. Okay, if they wanted him to stay, what was the sort of referral system, or the handover that Robertson would have liked, or so do you go right back and go there's always been issues? Or are you saying there's only issues now since those guys have left?
And the All Blacks are losing. Exactly. And all of a sudden the judgment is the fact, is New Zealand rugby's success based on the winning and losing of the All Blacks? Now there's no doubt it's the legacy, it is what New Zealand rugby is renowned for, is the performance of their top side. But we've been here before as a team. We've had these challenges and difficulties. The fact that Mark Robinson is under attack, which he is right now, David Moffat comes out as well. And it's the fact that New Zealand rugby is in a really difficult situation right now, because no matter what they say, it's not right. And they're being judged on the performance. And they're staying silent. But by the same token, what people want to know, and we all want to have, is faith and trust and belief in the direction they are heading. We would understand, though, the Silver Lake deal is a really important moment for New Zealand rugby, that we've actually got some resource now to protect and look for the future, and will help us and assist us in terms of helpfully changing course. But you've got to remember the margins, as we saw with the Black Fern Sevens, are so small between winning and losing. That's not how sport operates. You can't guarantee wins. You can help prepare for it. Remembering the Players Association asked for a review. They're asking, New Zealand Rugby asked for a review of the Players Association. Everyone wants to know. We love a review in this country.
I want a review later, mate, so don't worry.
Let's ask the government. They love a review as well. Everyone loves a review. We're all under review constantly. And that's the challenge for New Zealand Rugby, is I think maybe they just need a few fresh ideas from a few different people, because they're the ones that will drive something. They're the ones that will believe wholeheartedly in it. Don't just go and get an idea as a new idea, right? Don't get it, and say, you know what, and own that and say, oh no, I've introduced this. No. Bottom line, those people who understand it and can drive it. At the moment, it appears as though we're operating in an environment probably from 10 to 15 years ago.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because everyone's in the firing line at the moment because of the results.
Yeah.
But similar to the players, now's a time for really strong leadership, to absolutely back yourself. And when you're under the firing line, now's the time for Robert and that to actually step up and say, hey, here's my key people. This is our vision, our ideas. Okay, our ideas going forward. Let's pump it this way and make sure that we really believe in what we're doing going forward, because that now is what we need, because we're under the pump.
Well, interesting you mention leadership and Mark Robinson, because he was asked whether Ian Foster's the right man to lead this group forward. He said Ian Foster's the right person to lead them on this tour of South Africa. What do you read into that, and what happens if results don't go our way over in the Republic, Jeff?
Well, the trouble is that Scott Robertson's come out and said that he wants to go to win 2 Rugby World Cups with 2 different teams. He wants to get the opportunity to coach at the international level. Interesting, he said that when he's actually under contract with New Zealand Rugby. I find that difficult, the fact that, he's going to coach the Barbarians. I think he had the opportunity to coach the All Blacks 15 or the New Zealand 15 team. He turned that down. So we know exactly where Scott Robertson sits right now. His expectations are he wants to go to the next level. But they've got a job to do. And I think this has put, in some ways, New Zealand Rugby in a really difficult situation, and where does Ian Foster sit right now? He knows he's got 2 test matches to deliver. He's not naive to the fact that they haven't performed the way they need to perform. The expectations of the All Blacks, they need to be better. I think if they split 2, I think if they get 1 over there and perform well, that'll give them an opportunity to come up against. Now think about this: Argentina, who we can beat. Australia's number, we've had their number. All of a sudden you go to end of the year tour. Here we're going to Japan. We could quite easily go through the rest of the season. We've got England, which will be a real challenge, but then we could build some momentum. But the future is right in these 2 test matches. And if he lost both, it will be really hard, really difficult.
Does New Zealand Rugby lose Scott Robertson then? Is that the reality here?
Well, I think they do, because, you know, he's pleased the fact he wants to be the All Blacks coach. He went after this job, you know, against Ian Foster. I mean, and mate, he's not a silly man, you know. While everything's going on, I'll be chucking that out there too. You know, he's a very and so he should be, because of what he'd done with the Crusaders. So that's the downside. They're going to.
Does this help the situation though? Him doing that interview when the All Blacks are under all sorts of pressure. Does this conversation help New Zealand Rugby? Him coming out and saying this?
Absolutely not. Of course it does.
Yeah,
All it does is hey, it just makes New Zealand Rugby aware. Well, they are aware, and everyone else, that he's on the market. And for Robbo to come out and say, well, he's going to have another review. I mean, this is the leadership we're talking about. I mean, he doesn't need to put that much pressure, even more pressure on his coach. I mean, you might as well just tell him, mate, if you don't win 2 or you don't win 1, you're gone. Yeah. You know, and then that way they're giving Razor an answer as well. That if Fozzie doesn't get results in South Africa, well, you're going to be the next man on the job.
Robust debate and conversation. You know what the best thing about this is? We are talking about it. We're talking about the All Blacks and New Zealand Rugby, which must mean that we all care so deeply. Plenty more still to come here on The Breakdown.
The Bunnings NPC Championship Final for 2021 is underway at Inglewood. He gets it off and Prophet will score! Opening try in the final, Jared Prophet. Puts a wee goosey on Jason Potros. Gets the ball away to Tehorangi Warden. Can this sit up on the holo? It can! And Taranaki, for the first time since 2014, they win the Bunnings NPC Championship.
One of these teams will win the crown for the 3rd time. Little show of the ball, and he keeps going, and he's got it away to Regan Ware. Although that's a loose pass, and it's picked up by Bailey Sullivan, and he'll go all the way. Oh, they've done it again. Sullivan's going to get a double. And in their 100th year, Waikato are the champions of New Zealand Rugby.
No mai, hoki mai, welcome back into The Breakdown. Great to have you joining us. And you know what, Provincial Rugby, it is back in all its glory this weekend. There are more than 100 matches over the next 12 weeks. It is going to be busy, it is going to be jam-packed, but a new competition and a new format this year. Just one title. Who takes it out? Who are your favourites?
We know Taranaki last year were an outstanding side. You know, they delivered. They could quite easily have won the premiership. Yeah. They won the championship. Can they do it this year, though, without Stephen Perofeta? Because he was the guiding light to them last year. Josh Lord and all these sorts of players, and all of a sudden, so it's a matter of finding a team, which it's not a sprint. You know, this is bottom line. You've got to position yourself to make the quarterfinals. That's all that matters. Then you've got to win 3 games. I still think it's hard to go past the teams that have been very deep in the past. Tasman have done a great job of establishing themselves, but same thing. A lot of guys playing at the next level. I think, in terms of depth, Stephen Bates is in charge, one of our very own, is in charge of Auckland. I think Auckland are going to be really, really difficult to beat.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
Auckland.
I like that. I like, you know, Auckland. I like what they've sort of built over the years. But there is definitely, you know, your Keys, your Tasmans, your Canterbury, Waikato as well. And they could possibly have a chance. And Liam Messam, I think, still putting on the boots as well.
Last season. I'm going to throw a Daki out there as well. Wellington, Julian Savia, TJ Perenata. They've got a lot of Super Rugby players in that side. And
there's an All Blacks for, like I say, 15 at the end of that's going to go on tour. So there's a motivation for everyone.
What about Hawke's Bay? Hey? Hawke's Bay, not bad. Not bad. Hey?
They were awesome yesterday. They were dominant. So, look, yeah, exactly. So what we know, all of a sudden, there's so many players, so many individuals.
Yeah, also the Heartland Championship, of course, is going to be back. We're going to televise at least a game a weekend on Sky and on free-to-air as well.
Awesome.
Thames Valley The Swamp Foxes celebrating their 100th year. It is good.
Yeah, Ross Cooper hit me up at the All Blacks reunion, had a bit of a chat, and he said, oh, any chance you can get onto the breakdown and say, look, we've got our celebrations coming up when they're on the 28th of August, so it's your opportunity on your centennial. Get involved. Swamp Foxes are sort of, there's a sort of aura about the Swamp Foxes, right? There's something, the stories that come out of there, I think, is remarkable.
You should both pop your boots on and go and play for them this year. Looking at you, Mel.
There's no way.
You make some ridiculous suggestions on this show, Kirsten.
So apparently, yeah, they have the best aftermatches, so Taylor Johnson saves from Sky.
Oh, is that right? So the East Coast will argue against that.
Yeah, actually, probably right there.
What I want to do, though, I definitely want to pay tribute tonight to a man that was very influential in my care. My first coach and mentor in Dunedin, when I moved to Dunedin, was Jack Meadow, and he passed away last week. And he was a remarkable individual. He carried a club. He was one of those guys that, even though you thought you'd played well, he put a smile on his face and find a way of telling you the things you needed to work on every single week. And those people are so very, very crucial. And I know there's going to be a memorial this Friday at the club. So I'd encourage everyone who's involved at Harbour. You know Jack, he was a special, special man. And I'm grateful to have known him, and the fact that, those people that are so valuable to the club, his whole family, our condolences are with them.
Yeah, well said, Jeff. Thank you so much for that. Quickly, before we let you both go, predictions for the South African leg of the Rugby Championship Series. How many do we win?
I'm going to South Africa, and I'm going to be there, so I've got to be very careful, because I know this goes to South Africa. I'll tell you what, but it's going to be... I think we're going to split it. I really do. I think it's going to be one apiece.
I think so too. I think we need to win the first one, and I think that's the one that we're going to take.
There you go. Well, happy birthday before we go, Mels. 50.
Oh, gee, thank you.
Brilliant.
Is it a round number?
No, it's not, but it's just a day for the kids, opening my present. Joe has done a very good job, though, of hiding my present I was expecting, and that's my Ray Glass boat, so I'm still trying to find it.
Well, you get to go home now and have some cake, so enjoy your evening. Happy birthday from all of us here, and set your alarm clocks, because we are live from 2:30 in the morning. Jeff Wilson, Justin Marshall, they will be in South Africa, and Grant Nisbet as well, bringing you all the action. We'll see you back here next week.
And Taylor looking for Will Jordan. Oh, brilliant from the All Blacks. What a start. You got you, mate. It's not set up for Bridge. Oh, wow. There's the reply. Barrett, cross kick. No one there on Severis. Barrett using beautiful feet. Stays on his feet and finds Ioane. Ioane stays on his feet. Oh, brilliant. Flags are up. What a finale it's been.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.